Picture standing at the base of a massive stone wall, each block weighing as much as a small car, yet fitting together so perfectly that not even a blade of grass can slip between them. No mortar, no modern tools, just precision so exact it defies everything we know about ancient engineering. This isn't science fiction. This is the legacy of the Inca Empire, a civilization that built wonders so advanced they still leave experts scratching their heads centuries later. How did they do it? What secrets did they possess that allowed them to create structures standing unshaken through earthquakes, time, and even the relentless march of progress? The Inca didn't just build, they engineered with a brilliance that feels almost supernatural. Their cities clung to mountain peaks like natural extensions of the earth itself. Their roads stretched thousands of miles across impossible terrain, connecting an empire without the wheel or iron tools. And perhaps most astonishing of all, they achieved this with no written language, no blueprints as we know them, just knowledge passed down through generations, mastered to perfection. Today, their ruins aren't just relics of the past, they're puzzles waiting to be solved, whispering of techniques we've yet to fully understand. That's exactly what we're about to explore, 30 Inca engineering marvels that defy modern science. From floating islands to temples carved into living rock, each one is a testament to human ingenuity at its most extraordinary. This is more than a history lesson. It's a journey into the mind of a civilization that bent stone and landscape to its will. So come with us as we uncover the mysteries hidden in these ancient walls and ask yourself, if they could achieve this centuries ago, what does that say about the limits of human potential? The answers might just change how you see the past and the future. Let's start with Sacsayhuamán, the fortress that looms over the city of Cusco like a stone giant. Its walls aren't just big, they're mind-bending. Imagine blocks taller than a person, some weighing over 100 tons, stacked in zigzag patterns that ripple across the landscape. But the real shock, the precision. These stones fit together so seamlessly that after 500 years, you still can't slip a piece of paper between them. No mortar, no gaps, just perfect harmony. And here's the kicker. The Incas did this without iron tools, without the wheel, and without any system of writing to blueprint their designs. How? That's where the mystery deepens. One theory suggests they used a technique called ashlar masonry, where stones were painstakingly shaped by hand, trial and error, until they locked into place like a three-dimensional puzzle. Workers might have used harder stones to grind and polish the edges, or even sand and water to smooth surfaces to perfection. But here's the thing, modern engineers have tried replicating this, and even with lasers and diamond-tipped tools, matching that precision is nearly impossible. Then there's the earthquake factor. Peru sits on one of the most active seismic zones on Earth, yet Sacsayhuamán's walls have withstood countless quakes. The secret, the way the stones interlock actually allows them to shift slightly during tremors, then settle back into place. It's like the walls breathe with the earth. Modern concrete buildings crumble under the same forces, but the Incas' stonework, unshaken. Some researchers even speculate the Incas had a lost technology, perhaps a method to soften stone using plant acids or heat, making it malleable like clay. Others think they used sonic vibrations or some form of ancient levitation. Wild as it sounds, when you stand before those walls, the impossible starts to feel plausible. Because one thing's certain, the Incas weren't just builders, they were masters of stone, bending it to their will in ways we still can't fully explain. And Sacsayhuamán, it's not just a fortress, it's a challenge, a silent dare from the past, asking us to figure out how they did it. Now let's journey to Ollantaytambo, where the Temple of the Sun stands as another enigma in the Incas' architectural playbook. Here, the massive stone blocks aren't just heavy, they're astronomical, some weighing more than 50 tons, and they didn't just appear at the top of this steep mountainside by chance. Imagine dragging a stone the size of a school bus uphill, across rugged terrain without wheels, without pulleys, without even draft animals strong enough to help. The logistics alone make modern engineers pause, but the real stunner, the precision of the cuts. These megaliths fit together with the same impossible tightness as Sacsayhuamán, their edges so exact that even today's laser-guided tools would struggle to replicate them. Some stones have intricate geometrical niches and protrusions, almost like a locking mechanism, though no one's entirely sure what purpose they serve. And then there's the pink porphyry stone, a material so hard it's nearly unworkable with traditional tools. Yet the Incas shaped it as if it were butter, creating smooth surfaces and sharp angles that defy explanation. So how did they do it? Theories abound. One suggests they used a system of ramps, levers, and sheer manpower, possibly hundreds of workers pulling in unison with ropes made from woven plant fibers. Another wild idea involves acoustic levitation, somehow using sound frequencies to reduce the stone's weight, making them easier to maneuver. Then there's the notion that they soften the stone itself, perhaps with a lost plant-based chemical or even thermal shock techniques, heating and cooling the rock to make it more malleable. But here's the kicker: Ollantaytambo was unfinished when the Spanish arrived, giving us a rare glimpse into their process. Half-carved stones still sit in the quarries miles away, and tool marks on unfinished blocks hint at their methods. Yet even with these clues, we're left with more questions than answers. Why go to such lengths to move these monoliths uphill when smaller stones would have sufficed? Was it symbolic, practical, a display of power? Whatever the reason, Ollantaytambo's megaliths stand as a silent challenge, daring us to unravel their secrets. Because one thing's clear, the Incas didn't just build, they redefined what was possible, leaving behind puzzles that continue to captivate and humble us centuries later. High on a mist-shrouded ridge, Machu Picchu isn't just a masterpiece of beauty, it's a triumph of seismic engineering. While modern cities crumble under earthquakes, this 15th-century citadel has stood unshaken for centuries, thanks to the Incas' genius for working with the earth rather than against it. Every stone here tells a story of innovation, from the trapezoidal doorways to the walls that lean ever so slightly inward, as if bracing for the next tremor. Take those iconic trapezoid shapes: windows, doors, even niches for sacred objects. At first glance, they seem purely aesthetic, but their design is pure physics. The wider base and narrower top redistribute stress during quakes, preventing collapse when the ground shakes. Modern architects call this structural resilience, but the Incas didn't need textbooks to figure it out. They observed, experimented, and built what the land demanded. Then there are the walls themselves. Unlike rigid modern constructions, Machu Picchu's mortar-free masonry lets stones shift just enough during earthquakes, then settle back into place like a self-healing puzzle. The slight inward tilt, another stroke of brilliance. It lowers the center of gravity, making the entire structure more stable. Even the terraces, often mistaken for mere farmland, act as giant shock absorbers, their graduated layers dispersing seismic energy like ripples in water. Modern engineers are still catching up. In laboratories, teams study these techniques, trying to reverse engineer their effectiveness. Some even admit that, despite our advanced materials and computer models, replicating Machu Picchu's durability is staggeringly difficult. After all, the Incas didn't just build on the land, they built with it, selecting stones that match the natural frequency of the bedrock beneath them, creating harmony between structure and earth. The most humbling part, they did it all without seismographs, without reinforced steel, just an intimate understanding of their environment, passed down through generations. Machu Picchu isn't just a relic, it's a lesson. A reminder that sometimes the most advanced technology isn't about forcing nature to obey, but listening closely to its whispers. And as the Andes continue to tremble, those whispers grow louder, asking if we've truly surpassed the past, or if we've just forgotten its wisdom. Deep in the sacred valley, the circular terraces of Moray spiral into the earth like a giant stone fingerprint, each ring descending nearly 150 feet. At first glance, they seem ceremonial, a sacred amphitheater for some forgotten ritual. But the truth is far more ingenious. These terraces weren't designed for worship. They were the Incas' open-air laboratory, a groundbreaking experiment in agricultural science centuries ahead of its time. What makes Moray extraordinary isn't just its beauty, but the precision of its design. Each terrace forms a distinct microclimate, with temperature differences of up to 27 degrees Fahrenheit from top to bottom. That's equivalent to the natural variation between coastal farmland and high-altitude plots miles apart, all compressed into a single site. The Incas leveraged this to test crops at different elevations without ever leaving the valley. Potatoes, quinoa, maize, they could simulate growing conditions across their vast empire in one controlled environment. But the real mystery lies beneath the surface. The terrace's drainage system is so advanced it still functions flawlessly today, even after centuries of neglect. Channels hidden within the walls funnel water away during heavy rains, preventing erosion without a single drop pooling where it shouldn't. Modern engineers have studied these subterranean networks and still can't entirely replicate their efficiency. How did the Incas calculate the angles and gradients so precisely? Without written records, their hydrological knowledge remains a puzzle. Then there's the temperature regulation. The concentric design creates natural air currents, with cooler air sinking into the lower terraces while warmer layers rise, a passive climate control system rivaling modern greenhouses. Some researchers believe the Incas even adjusted soil compositions between levels to further fine-tune conditions. It's as if they invented the scientific method long before the term existed, using observation and iteration to push the boundaries of what agriculture could achieve. Today, Moray's legacy is more than historical curiosity. Scientists are revisiting its principles to develop sustainable farming techniques for our changing climate. Because while we have satellites and sensors, the Incas had something equally powerful, an intimate dialogue with nature. Their terraces didn't fight the environment, they collaborated with it, turning the land itself into a tool for discovery. And as we face our own agricultural challenges, that lesson might be their most enduring gift. In the heart of Cusco, where the ancient and modern worlds collide, stands Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun. But this wasn't just another sacred site. Imagine walls covered in solid gold, floors gleaming with precious metals, and life-sized golden statues of llamas and cornstalks, all bathed in sunlight so brilliant it reportedly blinded visitors. The Spanish chroniclers wrote that entering Coricancha was like stepping into a realm of gods, where every surface shimmered with divine radiance. Yet beneath this legendary opulence lies something even more extraordinary, a scientific precision that turns stone and sunlight into a celestial clock. The temple's alignment with the cosmos is no accident. During the summer solstice, sunlight pours through strategic openings, illuminating specific niches in the inner chambers like laser beams. These weren't just decorative, they were celestial markers, allowing priests to predict solstices, equinoxes, and agricultural cycles with pinpoint accuracy. The Incas didn't just worship the sun, they conversed with it, using architecture as their language. Modern astronomers have mapped these alignments and found discrepancies of less than half a degree, a margin of error that rivals today's GPS-calibrated instruments. How did a civilization without telescopes or written records achieve such precision? The answer might lie in generations of naked eye observations encoded into the very stones. Then there's the masonry. Like Sacsayhuamán and Ollantaytambo, Coricancha's walls feature those signature interlocking stones, but here they take on an almost organic quality. Curves blend seamlessly into angles, as if the rock flowed like liquid before hardening. Some blocks have as many as 12 perfectly fitted edges, a geometric feat that would require advanced mathematical understanding. Yet the Incas left no blueprints, no equations. Their knowledge lived in practice, not theory. What's truly haunting is how the Spanish tried to erase it. They built the church of Santo Domingo atop Coricancha, yet the Inca foundations refused to crumble. When earthquakes toppled the colonial architecture, the original walls stood firm, their resilience a silent rebuke to conquest. Today, you can see both layers side by side, the Spanish stones jagged and broken, and the Incas' seamless masonry untouched by time. Coricancha's legacy isn't just in what was lost, the gold melted down, the artifacts stolen, but in what endures, a testament to a civilization that turned temples into telescopes and worship into a science. The walls still whisper their secrets if we're willing to listen, because this wasn't just a place of devotion. It was a bridge between earth and sky where every stone was placed with the heavens in mind. Stretching high above the roaring Apurimac River, the Sacsayhuamán Bridge looks like something out of an adventurer's dream, a narrow, swaying walkway made entirely of woven grass dangling over a dizzying chasm. What's even more astonishing, this isn't some fragile relic. For over 500 years, bridges like Sacsayhuamán connected the vast Inca Empire, carrying soldiers, traders, and even llama caravans across some of the most treacherous landscapes on Earth. And here's the kicker. They built these engineering feats without a single nail, bolt, or modern tool, just twisted fibers and an ancient technique so effective that locals still rebuild the bridge by hand every single year. The secret lies in the grass iku, a tough Andean straw that's stronger than it looks. Villagers gather it in bundles, twist it into slender ropes, then braid those into thicker cables as thick as a man's thigh. But the real magic happens during the annual renewal ritual, a tradition passed down since Inca times. For 3 days, hundreds of workers from nearby communities come together, weaving and knotting new sections under the guidance of a master bridgekeeper or chakaruwak. It's a symphony of teamwork with no blueprints, just generations of muscle memory and shared knowledge. The old bridge is cut loose, tumbling into the river below, while the new one takes its place ready to endure another year of wind, rain, and foot traffic. What's truly mind-blowing is the engineering behind this simple design. Unlike modern suspension bridges with steel beams and concrete anchors, Sacsayhuamán relies on tension and flexibility. The cables are anchored to stone abutments on either side of the canyon, but instead of rigid supports, the bridge moves with the wind, absorbing shocks like a living thing. Engineers today marvel at how this design prevents the snaps and fractures that plague static structures. The Incas understood something we often forget. Sometimes strength comes from bending, not resisting. Then there's the social glue holding it all together. The bridge isn't just a transport route, it's a cultural covenant. Every year's renewal isn't just maintenance, it's a reaffirmation of community ties, a way to honor ancestors, and a refusal to let ancient wisdom fade. In a world obsessed with permanence, the Incas embraced impermanence as a virtue. They didn't build for eternity, they built for continuity, trusting each generation to keep the knowledge alive. Standing on Sacsayhuamán today, feeling it sway beneath your feet, you realize this isn't just a bridge, it's a rebellion against time. While modern steel structures rust and require billion-dollar repairs, this humble grass weave endures, whispering a lesson the Incas knew by heart. True resilience isn't about unyielding materials. It's about adaptable minds and the unbroken threads of tradition that keep them connected. At the ruins of Puma Punku near Lake Titicaca, the stones don't just puzzle researchers, they defy logic. Scattered across the site are massive H-shaped blocks, each weighing up to 80 tons, carved with such geometric perfection they look like pieces from a giant stonemason kit. But it's not their size that baffles experts, it's the precision. These blocks feature razor-straight edges, flawless right angles, and drill holes so precise they appear machined. The grooves are cut with a consistency that rivals modern laser tools, some shallow enough to balance a single sheet of paper, others deep enough to hold mystery. What's even stranger, the material. These aren't soft stones like sandstone. They're andesite and diorite, some of the hardest rocks on Earth, requiring diamond-tipped tools to carve today. Yet somehow, the builders of Pumapunku shaped them with ease, creating interlocking channels and notches so exact that they fit together like modular furniture. No mortar, no gaps, just seems tighter than a watchmaker's gears. The question isn't just how they did it, but why. Why go to such lengths for perfection in a structure with no obvious load-bearing function? Then there are the tunnels, or rather, the haunting absence of them. Some researchers propose Pumapunku was once laced with subterranean passages, possibly for hydraulic engineering or even symbolic journeys. A few surviving stone channels suggest advanced water management, perhaps redirecting rainfall or ceremonial flows. But if tunnels existed, they're now buried or destroyed, leaving only whispers in local legends and the eerie precision of the remaining stones. The real controversy: timeline. While often attributed to the Inca, Pumapunku might predate them by millennia, possibly built by the Tiwanaku culture. This raises an even wilder possibility. Were these techniques inherited by the Inca from an earlier, forgotten civilization? Some theorists point to the site's alignment with celestial events like the solstices, suggesting astronomical knowledge beyond what the Inca or their predecessors were believed to possess. Others speculate about lost tools, perhaps high-temperature forging methods or even sonic carving devices that could explain the uncanny precision. Modern attempts to recreate Pumapunku's craftsmanship have fallen short. Even with CNC machines and diamond drills, matching the symmetry and smoothness of these ancient cuts is a struggle. It's as if the builders had a relationship with stone weave since forgotten, treating it not as an obstacle but as a collaborator. Whether Inca or pre-Inca, Pumapunku stands as a riddle carved in rock, challenging our assumptions about ancient technology and leaving us to wonder what secrets still lie buried beneath the dust. Tucked into a quiet valley just south of Cusco, Tupon feels less like an archaeological site and more like a living testament to the Inca's liquid genius. Here, water doesn't just flow, it dances. A network of stone channels and fountains cascades down terraced hillsides, each jet and pool operating with flawless precision 500 years after its creation. No pumps, no pipes, no modern engineering, just gravity and a mastery of hydraulics so advanced it still baffles scientists today. Take the central fountain system. Water emerges from a hidden spring, channeled through perfectly angled stone conduits that split and redirect flows without a single drop wasted. But here's the twist: the Incas engineered varying water pressures across different tiers, creating everything from gentle trickles to powerful arcs, all from the same source. They achieved this by calculating the exact width and gradient of each channel, narrowing passages to increase velocity or widening them to slow the flow. Modern fluid dynamics relies on complex equations to predict this behavior. The Incas did it by intuition and observation, sculpting stone like master plumbers. The real marvel: the terraces themselves act as a massive filtration system. As water zigzags downward, sediment settles naturally in staggered basins, leaving cleaner water at each level. Some researchers believe this wasn't just practical, it was ceremonial, mirroring the Inca belief in water's sacred journey from mountain peaks to fertile valleys. The symmetry is no accident either. Channels align with solstice sunrises, suggesting the entire complex doubled as an astronomical calendar, where water and light intertwined in ritual. Even more impressive is what lies beneath. Underground ducts, still functional today, redirect excess water during heavy rains, preventing erosion with a sophistication that puts modern storm drains to shame. Spanish chroniclers wrote that Inca engineers could make water climb uphill, likely referring to their use of siphon techniques, a principle Europe wouldn't widely adopt for another century. Standing at Tapon, listening to the endless whisper of water over stone, you realize this wasn't just infrastructure. It was art, physics rendered in rock, every curve and angle a conversation between human ingenuity and the elements. While we rely on computerized models to manage water, the Incas used something far more profound: patience, perception, and an unshakable faith in nature's rhythms. Their fountains still sing today, not because they were built to last, but because they were built to understand. And in that understanding lies a challenge. Can we, with all our technology, match the elegance of their simplicity? Perched high above the sacred valley, the ruins of Pisac seem to cling to the mountainside by sheer will. But look closer, and you'll realize this isn't just another fortress or temple. It's a colossal stone clock, meticulously calibrated to the heavens. The Incas didn't just build Pisac to dominate the landscape. They designed it to track it, weaving astronomy into every terrace and wall. Take the terraces themselves. While they appear like ordinary agricultural steps, their alignment tells a deeper story. Each tier corresponds to specific celestial events, with the solstices as the grand finale. During the December solstice, sunlight strikes a series of carefully placed niches in the Temple of the Sun at dawn, illuminating them one by one like a cosmic countdown. The precision is staggering. Modern measurements show these markers are accurate to within minutes of the solstice sunrise, a feat requiring generations of naked eye observations. But why go to such lengths? Because for the Incas, astronomy wasn't abstract science, it was survival. The solstice markers weren't just ceremonial, they dictated the agricultural calendar with life or death urgency. When the sun hit the first niche, it signaled the start of planting season for high-altitude crops like quinoa. The next marker warned of imminent frosts, prompting farmers to harvest. This wasn't guesswork, it was a stone and light algorithm honed over centuries to squeeze abundance from the Andes' unforgiving climate. Then there's the Intihuatana, or hitching post of the sun. This carved stone pillar cast shadows so precise that priests could predict equinoxes, solar zeniths, and even optimal times for crop rotation. Unlike sundials, which merely tell time, the Intihuatana interacted with celestial events, its angles mirroring the sun's path at different latitudes. Some researchers believe Pisac's entire layout mirrors the Inca constellation Kulka, the storehouse, linking earthly harvests to celestial patterns. What's truly humbling is how they achieved this without telescopes or written records. The Incas likely used simple tools like the Sacsayhuamán stone pillars placed on distant horizons to track the sun's shifting positions. Over decades, they refined these observations into architecture, encoding their knowledge in stone rather than parchment. While modern observatories rely on glass and electronics, Pisac's instruments are the mountain itself, a testament to the power of patience and perception. Standing among these ruins at dawn, watching sunlight slide across ancient markers, you realize Pisac wasn't just a place of worship or agriculture. It was a bridge between earth and sky, where every stone whispered a warning or promise to those who knew how to listen. In an age of satellites and smartphones, that intimacy with the cosmos feels almost revolutionary, a reminder that sometimes the most advanced technology isn't digital. It's carved in rock, bathed in light, and rooted in the rhythms of the world itself. High above Machu Picchu, where the mountains seem to touch the sky, the Ollantaytambo, or Sun Gate, stands as a silent sentinel. But this isn't just a doorway carved in stone. It's a celestial bullseye designed so precisely that during the equinoxes, the rising sun aligns perfectly with its center, flooding the entire passage with golden light. Picture this, a beam of sunlight so exact it could have been measured with a laser, yet achieved centuries before the invention of modern optics. How did the Inca, without telescopes or written records, engineer such a flawless alignment? The answer lies in relentless observation. Unlike modern astronomers who rely on digital star charts, the Inca likely used a system of horizon markers, natural peaks, or specially placed stones to track the sun's shifting path across the seasons. By noting where the sun rose and set over months or even years, they could pinpoint the equinoxes with startling accuracy. The sun gate itself might have served as a final verification point, its position fine-tuned until the light struck just right. What's astonishing is the patience behind this process. This wasn't a one-time calculation. It was a generational project refined through centuries of trial and error. Then there's the gate's strategic placement. Positioned along the Inca Trail, the Sun Gate wasn't just a scientific tool, it was a ceremonial threshold. Pilgrims arriving from Cusco would have passed through it at dawn, bathed in equinox light, as if stepping into a sacred realm. The alignment wasn't just functional, it was theatrical, blending astronomy with spirituality. Modern researchers have found that the gate's angle also corresponds to key agricultural dates, hinting at a deeper, practical purpose. When the sun hit the gate's center, it signaled the optimal time to plant or harvest, turning stone and sunlight into a lifeline for survival. But here's the real mystery. The Inca didn't just mark the equinoxes, they celebrated them. The sun gate's alignment isn't just precise, it's poetic. The light doesn't merely pass through, it lingers, illuminating carvings and niches that might have held offerings or served as ritual altars. Some scholars suggest the gate was part of a larger network of solar markers, a constellation of stone monuments working in concert to map the heavens. Others wonder if the Incas used reflective surfaces, polished metal, or water-filled basins to enhance or redirect the light for ceremonies, the most humbling part. Modern attempts to replicate the sun gate's alignment, even with GPS and computer modeling, reveal just how sophisticated Inca astronomy truly was. The margin of error is razor-thin, a testament to their intimate dialogue with the cosmos. Ollantaytambo isn't just a relic, it's a challenge. A reminder that precision doesn't always require technology. Sometimes it just demands unwavering attention to the world around us. And as the sun continues to rise through that ancient doorway, unchanged for centuries, it asks us a quiet question. In our rush to innovate, have we forgotten how to truly see? The Inca road system wasn't just a network, it was a monumental feat of stubbornness. Imagine insisting on straight paths across some of the most brutal terrain on Earth. Sheer cliffs, raging rivers, mountain peaks scraping the sky. Yet for over 25,000 miles, the Sacsayhuamán, or Royal Road, defied logic, cutting through landscapes like an unbroken spine connecting the empire. No curves for convenience, no detours for rivers, just relentless geometry. And the wildest part, they built it all without the wheel, without iron tools, relying instead on a blend of sheer ingenuity and an almost fanatical commitment to precision. What made these roads extraordinary wasn't just their length, but their defiance of nature. Where modern engineers would zigzag up a mountainside to reduce gradient, the Incas went straight up, carving staircases into rock or building causeways that clung to vertigo-inducing drops. In valleys, they raised embankments to keep the path level, sometimes towering 50 feet above the ground. Swamps, they floated roads on stone foundations, creating dry paths where none should exist. Every obstacle was met with the same response: adapt but never deviate. The secret lay in their construction. Unlike cobbled Roman roads, the Sacsayhuamán was tailored to its environment. In deserts, packed earth prevented dust clouds. In wet highlands, drainage channels ran beneath the stone paving, keeping surfaces dry. And those surfaces weren't uniform. Some stretches were paved with fitted stones, while others used compacted clay or even crushed seashells for traction. This wasn't one-size-fits-all engineering. It was a masterclass in localized solutions, all adhering to that unyielding straight line. But why such obsession with straightness? Speed. The empire relied on chasquis runners who relayed messages and goods at staggering pace. A message could travel over 200 miles in a day thanks to these uninterrupted paths. Curves would have slowed them. The Incas prioritized efficiency over ease. Rest houses and storage depots dotted the route at precise intervals, calculated to a runner's stamina. It was the ancient equivalent of an expressway, complete with pit stops. Today, satellite imagery reveals the road's true audacity. Lines stretching hundreds of miles with deviations of less than 1 degree. Modern highways bound by property lines and topography can't match that precision. The Incas didn't just build roads, they imposed order on chaos, proving that sometimes the most advanced technology isn't machinery. It's vision, willpower, and an unwavering refusal to take the long way round. Hidden among the ruins of several Inca sites, you'll find stones that don't just puzzle researchers, they seem to defy the very laws of nature. These are the vitrified stones, their surfaces transformed into a glassy, almost molten finish, as if someone took a blowtorch to them centuries ago. But here's the catch: the Incas had no known technology capable of generating that kind of heat. So what caused these eerie, glossy patches on otherwise ordinary rocks? The answer might rewrite what we think we know about ancient engineering. One of the most striking examples lies in the walls of Sacsayhuamán, where certain stones show unmistakable signs of vitrification, a process where intense heat melts rock into a glass-like substance. The temperatures required, around 1,100 degrees Celsius, hotter than some modern furnaces. Yet there's no evidence of widespread fire damage, no soot or ash layers to suggest a catastrophic blaze. This isn't random scorching, it's targeted, almost surgical. So how did it happen? Theories range from the plausible to the downright fantastical. Some scientists argue it could be the result of lightning strikes, a natural explanation given the Andes' frequent thunderstorms. Lightning can indeed vitrify rock, but there's a problem. The patterns on these stones don't match typical lightning scars. Instead of chaotic, branching marks, the vitrification appears in smooth, localized patches, often on vertical surfaces where lightning would rarely strike twice. Others suggest geothermal activity, but the sites in question sit far from known volcanic zones. Then there are the more controversial ideas. Could the Incas have possessed some form of lost energy technology? Ancient astronaut theorists point to legends of the Illapa, a mythical weapon said to harness the power of thunder, as possible evidence of directed energy tools. More grounded researchers propose the use of giant parabolic mirrors or lenses, focusing sunlight to create pinpoint heat. The Inca were master stoneworkers. If anyone could polish lenses or reflective surfaces to such precision, it would have been them. Yet no artifacts like this have ever been found. Perhaps the most intriguing clue lies in the stones themselves. The vitrified patches often appear near joints or seams in the masonry, places where stress or friction would be greatest. This has led a handful of material scientists to speculate about another possibility: sonic or vibrational tools. Some ancient cultures, from Egypt to India, have myths about softening stone with sound. Could the Incas have discovered a resonant frequency that, when amplified, generated enough heat to briefly liquefy rock? It sounds like science fiction, but then again, so does building earthquake-proof cities without mortar. The truth is, we're still scratching the surface. What makes these stones so compelling isn't just the mystery of their creation, but what they imply. If the Incas did have a method for focusing extreme heat, even temporarily, it would explain how they shaped andesite and diorite with such ease. It might even shed light on those impossible seams at Pumapunku or Ollantaytambo. Until we find definitive evidence, the vitrified stones remain one of archaeology's most tantalizing riddles. A silent challenge carved not just in rock but in glass. Rising from the high plains like a forgotten fortress, Rakchai's walls shouldn't stand, yet they do. Built from a staggering combination of volcanic stone and sun-baked adobe, these colossal partitions soar over 40 feet tall, defying gravity, earthquakes, and 500 years of relentless weather. What makes them extraordinary isn't just their height, but their paradoxical design. Adobe bricks made of mud and straw should crumble under rain and tremors. Volcanic stone, while sturdy, is prone to cracking under stress, yet together they form a hybrid structure so resilient it's left modern engineers in awe. Start with the foundation. The lower third of Rakchai's walls are built from andesite blocks, a volcanic rock so dense it's nearly impervious to erosion. These stones aren't just stacked, they're interlocked with the same precision found in Cusco or Ollantaytambo, their edges beveled to absorb seismic shocks. But here's the twist: the Incas didn't rely on stone alone. Above this unshakable base, they layered towering adobe bricks, a material chosen not for weakness but for its secret genius. Adobe's porousness allows it to flex during earthquakes, dissipating energy like a sponge. The stone foundation anchors the wall, while the adobe upper half dances with the tremors, a perfect marriage of rigidity and flexibility. Modern seismic studies show this combination reduces structural stress by up to 70% compared to pure stone or pure adobe, a revelation that's inspiring earthquake-resistant designs today. Then there's the mortar, or rather the lack of it. The adobe bricks are bonded with a clay-based paste mixed with organic fibers, creating a lightweight yet cohesive grip. During quakes, this paste acts as a sacrificial layer, micro-fracturing to absorb shocks without compromising the wall's integrity. Even more impressive, the walls taper slightly as they rise, lowering their center of gravity while minimizing weight at the top. It's a subtle detail, but one that speaks volumes about the Incas' intuitive grasp of physics. But the real testament to Rakchai's engineering lies in its scars. The walls bear cracks not from failure but from calculated survival. After each earthquake, the adobe sections would fracture in controlled patterns, then settle back into place. Locals learned to repair these cracks with the same clay mixture, a practice that turned maintenance into ritual. Unlike modern concrete, which fails catastrophically when stressed, Rakchai's walls were designed to weather disaster, not resist it outright. Today, these crumbling giants still dominate the landscape, their surfaces pocked by centuries of wind and rain, yet they stand as a lesson in humility. While we reinforce our cities with steel and synthetics, the Incas mastered durability using dirt, straw, and stone, a proof that sometimes the most advanced solutions aren't about fighting nature but learning from it. Rakchai doesn't just defy gravity, it defies time itself, whispering secrets to anyone willing to listen. Just beyond the bustle of Cusco, tucked into a quiet hillside, Tambamache's stone terraces shimmer with something rare in the high Andes, the constant musical rush of water. Known as the Inca baths, this site isn't just a collection of fountains, it's a hydraulic masterpiece, where every channel, cascade, and pool operates with the precision of a Swiss watch. But what makes Tambamache truly extraordinary isn't just the engineering. It's the way the Incas blurred the line between plumbing and prayer, turning water into both a physical and spiritual lifeline. Start with the basics, the water itself. Unlike modern systems reliant on pumps or pressure, Tambamache's fountains flow effortlessly from a hidden spring, guided by a network of subterranean channels carved into the living rock. These aren't crude ditches, they're carefully graded conduits, their slopes calculated to maintain a perfect, unbroken stream. The Incas understood something modern hydrologists confirm: water behaves predictably when given the right path. By angling each channel at exact gradients, they eliminated turbulence, creating laminar flow so smooth it looks like liquid glass. Even today, after 5 centuries, not a single drop spills haphazardly. Then there's the acoustics. Stand beside the lower fountains, and you'll notice something peculiar. The sound of rushing water isn't chaotic, but rhythmic, almost melodic. This isn't accidental. The channels are sculpted to amplify certain frequencies, turning the flow into a kind of natural music. Some researchers believe this was intentional. a way to mimic the sacred sounds of mountain streams or rainfall integral to Inca cosmology. Water wasn't just a resource, it was a voice, and Tambamache let it sing. But the real genius lies beneath your feet. The baths are fed by a labyrinth of underground ducts, some wide enough to crawl through, others no broader than a finger. These hidden arteries redistribute water pressure with near magical efficiency, ensuring that even during dry seasons, the fountains never falter. Spanish chroniclers wrote of priests performing rituals here, using the water's immutable flow as proof of the gods' favor. In a land where drought meant starvation, Tambamache's reliability wasn't just impressive, it was divine. What's haunting is how little we know about its construction. The Incas left no diagrams, no records of the calculations behind these gradients. Yet the system works so flawlessly that modern engineers struggle to improve upon it. Some speculate they used simple tools like weighted strings to measure slopes, or observed natural waterways to replicate their efficiency. Others wonder if Tambamache was part of a larger hydrological network, a node in a celestial map where water mirrored the Milky Way's path across the sky. Standing here, watching sunlight dance on water that's flowed unchanged for generations, you realize Tambamache isn't just a relic. It's a conversation between stone and stream, between earth and sky. The Incas didn't just control water, they conversed with it, crafting channels that were both equations and offerings. In an age of leaking pipes and wasteful systems, their message feels urgent. True engineering doesn't fight nature. It listens. High in the cloud forests of Peru, where the air thins and the condors circle, lies Choqquequirau, Machu Picchu's enigmatic sister, shrouded in twice the mystery and half the fame. While crowds flock to its celebrated sibling, this sprawling citadel remains eerily quiet, its terraces clinging to the mountainside like a half-told secret. But don't let the solitude fool you. Choqquequirau isn't just a shadow of Machu Picchu. It's a puzzle box of celestial alignments, cryptic symbols, and engineering choices that still leave archaeologists debating their purpose. Take the terraces. At first glance, they resemble Machu Picchu's agricultural steps, but look closer. These aren't just functional, they're coded. Some are adorned with white quartzite llama figures, visible only from the sky, as if meant for eyes above. Others align with solstice sunrises, their edges catching the first light like a sundial's gnomon. Then there's the House of the Fallen, a structure deliberately built at a precarious angle, as if the Incas were testing gravity itself. Why, no one's entirely sure. Some scholars think it was a ceremonial site for star worship. Others argue it was a strategic stronghold, guarding the western approach to the sacred valley. The real enigma is its isolation. Reaching Choqquequirau demands a grueling 2-day trek across vertiginous trails, a stark contrast to Machu Picchu's train-accessible luxury. This wasn't an oversight. The Incas chose this remoteness, crafting a city that felt more like a sanctuary than a settlement. Unlike Machu Picchu's intricate water channels and urban planning, Choqquequirau's layout feels intentionally cryptic, with structures placed in seemingly illogical spots perched on cliffs, hidden in gorges, or tucked behind false ridges. What's most tantalizing is how much remains buried. Less than 40% of the site has been excavated. Satellite imagery hints at vast underground chambers and terraces still swallowed by jungle, suggesting Choqquequirau might rival Machu Picchu in scale. Local legends speak of a golden puma statue hidden somewhere in the ruins, a guardian spirit waiting to be unearthed. So why does Machu Picchu overshadow it? Blame history. The Spanish never found Choqquequirau, so its stones weren't plundered for colonial buildings. But that also meant it slipped into obscurity until the 20th century, missing the early archaeological fanfare that crowned Machu Picchu as the Incas' poster child. Yet in some ways, Choqquequirau's obscurity is a gift. Here, you won't find souvenir stalls or Instagram crowds, just the wind humming through empty doorways and the uncanny sense that the city isn't abandoned. It's waiting, standing on its highest terrace, watching the sun set behind the Apurimac Canyon. You realize Choqquequirau isn't just a lesser-known ruin. It's a riddle wrapped in stone, a place where the Incas' most guarded secrets might still lie buried under centuries of silence, and perhaps that's exactly how they wanted it. Among the moss-covered boulders of Peru's highlands, Urok Rumi stands out not for its size but for its scars. This massive rock, roughly the length of 2 cars parked end to end, is carved with a series of steps, channels, and niches so precise they look like the work of a master sculptor. Yet this wasn't art for art's sake. Every groove, every angle on Urok Rumi feels intentional, as if the stone itself holds secrets whispered between the Inca and the cosmos. Walk around it, and the first thing you'll notice are the steps' shallow, evenly spaced indentations spiraling up one side. Too narrow for practical climbing, they seem designed for something more symbolic. Maybe a priest ascending during rituals or offerings placed at precise intervals. But the real intrigue lies in the channels. Carved with mathematical precision, these shallow troughs zigzag across the rock's surface, some ending in small depressions, others vanishing into the stone like unfinished sentences. When it rains, water follows these paths with eerie accuracy, pooling in designated basins as if guided by invisible hands. Was this a ceremonial altar? The channels could have funneled sacrificial liquids, chicha, blood, or sacred oils into ritual containers. The basins might have held offerings to Pachamama, the earth goddess. But there's another possibility. Urok Rumi wasn't just spiritual, it was scientific. Researchers note that certain channels align with solstice sunrises, their edges catching the first light like a stone sundial. One particular groove points directly to the December solstice sunrise, suggesting the rock might have served as both calendar and shrine. For the Inca, who saw no divide between science and sacredness, this duality wouldn't be strange, it'd be inevitable. Then there's the acoustics. Strike the rock near one of the channels, and the sound reverberates with an almost metallic ring, a phenomenon caused by the vibrations traveling through the carved pathways. Some scholars speculate this wasn't accidental, that Urok Rumi doubled as a sonic device, its resonance used in ceremonies to mimic thunder or the voices of ancestors. Others point to similar stones across the Andes, suggesting a network of these singing rocks, used to communicate across distances. What's most haunting is how little we truly know. Unlike temples or fortresses, Urok Rumi offers no murals, no artifacts, just silent stone and unanswered questions. Modern attempts to recreate its channels with traditional tools show how painstaking the work must have been. Each groove would have required days of pecking with harder stones, a testament to the Incas' patience and purpose. Standing before it, you realize Urok Rumi isn't just a rock. It's a conversation frozen in time, a puzzle where every scratch might be a word. Whether altar, observatory, or something we've yet to imagine, one thing's certain: the Inca didn't carve without reason. And until we decipher their language of stone and sky, Urok Rumi will keep its secrets whispering but never telling. Perched at 12,000 feet above sea level, the terraces of Chinchero don't just cling to the mountainside, they defy it. While modern farms struggle with erosion and flooding, these ancient steps have weathered 5 centuries of Andean storms without losing an inch of soil. The secret, an anti-flood design so advanced, it's inspired contemporary hydrologists to rethink everything they know about water management. Walk along these terraces during a downpour and you'll witness something extraordinary. Instead of torrents carving gullies through the fields, the water disappears, not into the ground, but into a meticulously engineered network of hidden channels and spillways. Each terrace acts like a miniature watershed, with stone retaining walls angled just enough to slow runoff without collapsing. Beneath the surface, porous layers of gravel and sand filter the water, while subterranean drains redirect excess flow to lower tiers. It's a cascade of controlled motion water moving on the Incas' terms, not nature's. What's truly revolutionary is how this system handles extremes. During heavy rains, overflow channels activate like pressure valves, splitting torrents into manageable streams. In drought, the same channels retain moisture, seeping it back into the soil through capillary action. Modern engineering often relies on concrete and steel to brute force solutions, but the Incas worked with texture layering coarse and fine materials to mimic the natural absorbency of a mountain ecosystem. The genius doesn't stop at infrastructure. Chinchero's terraces are climate adaptive, their designs tailored to microclimates. South-facing slopes feature deeper soil for water retention, while north-facing ones use shallower beds to prevent saturation. Crop choices follow suit, with drought-resistant quinoa planted where drainage is swift and moisture-loving tubers nestled in sheltered hollows. This isn't just farming, it's hydrological chess, anticipating moves centuries in advance. Today, engineers from Amsterdam to Tokyo study these terraces for flood-resistant urban planning. Some have even replicated Chinchero's layered filtration in modern sponge cities, where concrete jungles learn to drink like mountains. The irony, while we chase high-tech solutions, the Incas' greatest tool was observation, decades of watching how water moved across stone, how plants thrived or faltered, and how the land itself whispered its needs. Standing in Chinchero after a storm, you won't find washed-out paths or muddy ruin. Just quiet efficiency, the sound of water humming through hidden veins, and a lesson etched into the earth. Resilience isn't about conquering nature. It's about listening, and perhaps that's why, after all these years, the terraces still stand not as relics but as teachers. Tucked away in the rocky cliffs near Lake Titicaca, the Amaru Muru doorway isn't just a curious carving, it's a sonic anomaly. This rectangular alcove, barely tall enough for a person to step through, hums with an eerie acoustic phenomenon. Whisper something near its surface, and your voice doesn't just carry, it ripples, bouncing back with unnatural clarity, as if the stone itself is listening. But what makes this doorway truly baffling isn't just the echo. It's the precision of its acoustics, which defy both natural geology and known Inca engineering. The first mystery lies in the doorway's shape. Unlike typical caves or niches which scatter sound randomly, the Amaru Muru's flat, smooth surfaces create a perfect reverberation chamber. Tests with audio equipment reveal something startling. Certain frequencies amplify dramatically, while others vanish entirely. It's as if the stone was tuned like a musical instrument, selectively enhancing or suppressing sound. Modern architects might achieve this with computer-modeled materials, but the Incas had no such technology. So how did they sculpt a doorway that behaves like a tuning fork? Some researchers point to the rock's composition, a rare volcanic stone dense enough to reflect sound with near-metallic precision. Others suggest the Incas might have stumbled upon this acoustic quirk by accident, then ritualized it. Local legends describe the doorway as a portal used by priests to communicate with spirits, their voices carried to the gods by the stone's uncanny resonance. But there's a twist. The doorway isn't just an amplifier, it's a filter. Stand at different angles and your voice distorts in ways that mimic chanting or even animal growls, effects that would have been spine-chilling in ceremonial context. Then there's the wilder theory, interdimensional folklore. Indigenous myths speak of Amaru Muru as a stargate, a place where shamans could step between worlds. The unnatural acoustics, some argue, might have been interpreted as the voices of ancestors or deities from another realm. Even skeptics admit the doorway's sonic properties are unusual enough to fuel such beliefs. When sound behaves unpredictably, it's easy to see why ancient cultures might attribute it to magic. But here's the haunting part. Modern attempts to replicate the doorway's acoustics using lasers to map its angles and 3D printed models have fallen short. The original's resonance remains unmatched, as if something intangible was lost with the builders. Whether spiritual portal or engineered marvel, Amaru refuses to give up its secrets. It stands silent most of the time, but when the wind hits just right or a traveler dares to whisper, the doorway still answers a ghost of sound lingering between myth and stone. Hidden in the rugged hills above Cusco, the ancient quarries of Rumacolca and Cachacata tell a story of stone and patience. Here, the Incas didn't just extract rock, they liberated it, coaxing massive blocks from the earth with a delicacy that defies modern logic. Unlike today's diamond-tipped saws and explosives that shatter stone into submission, the Inca approach was more like surgery. They worked with the mountain's natural fractures, inserting wooden wedges into pre-existing fissures, then soaking them with water. As the wood expanded, it gently pried the stone apart along its weakest lines, a technique so precise that abandoned blocks still bear the marks of their intended cuts, like blueprints carved into the earth. Walk through these quarries today, and you'll find half-finished monoliths frozen in mid-extraction, their surfaces revealing the Incas' step-by-step process. First, they carved narrow trenches around a block's perimeter, deepening them incrementally to isolate it from the bedrock. Then, using stone hammers made of harder rock like hematite, they pecked away at the edges, creating smooth plains without a single fracture. The patience is staggering. A single block could take months to free, each tap of the hammer calibrated to avoid catastrophic cracks. Modern engineers have tried replicating this with hand tools and consistently report something humbling. It's nearly impossible to match the Incas' error-free precision. Compare this to today's quarrying methods where diamond wire saws slice through stone like butter, but with a trade-off. The violence of the process creates microfractures that weaken the material over time. Inca stones, by contrast, were preserved by their extraction. Their technique left the crystalline structure intact, which explains why their walls still stand after centuries of earthquakes. There's a deeper philosophy here too. The Incas saw stone as alive, a sibling, not a slave. Their quarries feel less like mines and more like birthplaces, where rocks were carefully midwifed from the earth rather than torn from it. The most telling clue lies in the transport. At Ollantaytambo's quarry, 600 meters above the valley floor, you'll find a 200-ton monolith nicknamed the Tired Stone. It was halfway to its destination when work abruptly stopped, likely due to the Spanish invasion. The block's smooth surfaces and perfect angles prove it wasn't abandoned due to flaws. Somehow, the Incas planned to move this behemoth downhill without breaking it, possibly using log rollers, earthen ramps, and an army of laborers pulling in unison. Even with modern machinery, the logistics are daunting. Without it, it's a testament to their confidence in perfection. They wouldn't bother moving a stone unless it was flawless. Standing in these quarries, you realize the Incas weren't just master builders. They were stone whisperers, reading the land's secrets like a language we've since forgotten. Their methods weren't just slower, they were smarter, prioritizing harmony with the material over speed. In an age obsessed with efficiency, that's a radical thought. Maybe true progress isn't about cutting faster, but cutting right. And as the abandoned blocks silently attest, some lessons are still waiting to be unearthed. Halfway along the grueling Inca trail, where weary hikers pause to catch their breath, Huayna emerges from the mist not as a grand citadel but as a whisper. This terraced complex clings to a steep mountainside, its structures stacked like secrets waiting to be unraveled. Unlike Machu Picchu's show-stopping grandeur, Huayna feels intimate, almost introspective. But don't let its modest scale fool you. Every stone here hums with dual purpose, blurring the line between practical refuge and sacred space in ways that still spark debate among archaeologists. Start with the obvious location. Huayna sits at a strategic midpoint along the trail, a natural resting place for travelers making the pilgrimage to Machu Picchu. Its name means forever young in Quechua, possibly referencing the eternal springs that feed its intricate fountains, a lifeline for exhausted pilgrims. The lower terraces burst with agricultural plots, suggesting practical sustenance for journeyers. Yet the upper levels tell a different story. Here, ceremonial baths and finely carved ritual platforms hint at spiritual preparation, as if the site wasn't just a pit stop, but a threshold where the physical and metaphysical worlds touched. The architecture deepens the mystery. Huayna's buildings curve organically around the mountainside, echoing the land's contours in a way that feels devotional. One structure, known as the Temple of the Rainbow, aligns so precisely with the sun's arc during equinoxes that shadows paint rainbows across its walls, a phenomenon modern visitors still witness. Was this intentional? The Incas revered rainbows as bridges between realms, making it plausible they engineered this celestial dialogue. Nearby, a series of small, identical rooms lack hearths or storage, ruling out residential use. Their perfect uniformity suggests a function more ritual than practical, perhaps housing sacred objects or offering spaces. Then there's the water. Like Tupon and Tambamache, Huayna's fountains are hydraulic marvels, their stone channels engineered to create laminar flow, water so smooth it looks like glass. But unlike those sites, the fountains here are clustered in secluded courtyards, hidden from casual view. Their placement implies exclusivity, as if only certain travelers were permitted to witness or use them. Local guides whisper of initiation rites where pilgrims purified themselves before the final ascent to Machu Picchu, though no written records confirm this. The most tantalizing clues lie beneath the surface. Recent LiDAR scans reveal subterranean channels snaking under the terraces, some leading to undiscovered chambers. Could these tunnels have stored ceremonial items or even guided ritual sounds? At certain times of day, wind whistles through the ruins with an eerie, melodic hum, a natural acoustic some researchers believe was harnessed for ceremonies. Standing in Huayna's quiet plaza, with the Urubamba River roaring far below, you sense the duality of this place. It wasn't just a way station, it was a liminal space where the journey itself became sacred. The Incas understood that pilgrimage wasn't merely about reaching a destination, it was about transformation along the way. And in these stones, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps and prayer, that transformation still lingers, waiting to be felt by those who pause long enough to listen. High on a ridge opposite Machu Picchu, the ruins of Lactapota hold a secret one written in sunlight and shadow. During the December solstice, something extraordinary happens here. As dawn breaks, the rising sun aligns perfectly between two distant mountain peaks, its golden light piercing straight through Lactapota's central plaza and striking Machu Picchu's Temple of the Sun like an arrow. This isn't coincidence, it's celestial choreography carved in stone, a precision alignment that repeats every year with clockwork accuracy. The question isn't just how the Incas engineered this, it's why. Was Lactapota a sacred solar observatory, a military stronghold, or something even more intriguing? Start with the astronomy. The site's layout reads like a star chart. Terraces and walls angle to frame specific astronomical events, not just solstices, but also the zenith sunrise when the sun passes directly overhead, and anti-zenith, its lowest point. These moments held deep agricultural significance, marking planting and harvest cycles. But the real marvel is Lactapota's dialogue with Machu Picchu. During the June solstice, shadows from Lactapota's structures stretch across the valley to touch specific points in the citadel below, almost as if tracing an invisible connection. Modern archaeologists using 3D modeling have confirmed these alignments aren't accidental. They're mathematically precise, requiring generations of solar observations to perfect. Yet the military theory persists. Lactapota's position offers a panoramic view of the Urubamba Valley and the approaches to Machu Picchu, making it a natural sentinel. Its storehouses could have supplied troops, while its terraced fields ensured self-sufficiency during sieges. Some researchers point to its strategic location along the Inca Trail, where it could control pilgrim traffic or serve as an early warning post. But here's the twist: defensive architecture typically prioritizes function over celestial aesthetics. Lactopata's walls feature the same sacred trapezoidal doorways and solstice-aligned niches found in temples, blurring the line between fortress and sanctuary. The most compelling evidence might lie underground. Recent LiDAR scans reveal a network of hidden channels beneath Lactopata's plaza, mirroring the water cult themes of Machu Picchu's fountains. These weren't irrigation ditches; their placement suggests ritual use, possibly guiding ceremonial liquids during solstice events. Even the site's name hints at duality. While Lactopata translates to high town, local oral histories call it Cuentamaka, meaning place of the hummingbird, a creature symbolizing both warriors and messengers between worlds in Inca cosmology. What emerges isn't an either-or answer, but a synthesis. Lactopata likely served as both a sentinel with celestial sightlines, where guards kept watch by day and priests traced constellations by night. The Incas saw no contradiction in this. For them, warfare and worship were threads of the same fabric, woven together by the loom of the cosmos. As the sun continues its ancient dance across these stones, Lactopata remains a riddle in plain sight. Not just a site aligned with the heavens, but a bridge between earth and sky, strategy and spirituality, leaving us to wonder if we've ever truly separated the two. In the shimmering expanse of Lake Titicaca, where the sky melts into water, the Yoros people live on islands that shouldn't exist, floating mats of reeds thick as mattresses, bobbing gently with every wave. These aren't just rafts; they're entire villages, complete with houses, watchtowers, and even solar panels, all anchored to the lakebed by ropes woven from the same reeds that keep them afloat. What seems like a miracle of survival is actually a legacy, one that stretches back to the Inca, who mastered aquatic engineering centuries before the modern world caught up. The secret lies in the totora reed, a deceptively simple plant that's tougher than it looks. Harvested from the lake's shallows, these reeds are bundled tightly in layers, their hollow stems trapping air like natural flotation devices. But here's the brilliance: the Yoros didn't invent this technique, they inherited it. Inca chronicles describe similar floating islands used for fishing, trade, and even military outposts, with entire communities living on woven reed platforms. The Inca didn't just tolerate water, they conquered it, turning a liquid landscape into habitable territory. What's astonishing isn't just that these islands float, but how they endure. A well-built totora island lasts up to 30 years, its base rotting slowly while new reeds are layered on top. The Yoros mimic this cycle today, just as their ancestors did, weaving fresh reeds into the surface every 2 weeks to maintain buoyancy. But the real engineering marvel lies beneath. The islands are anchored to the lakebed with ropes tied to eucalyptus stakes, a technique carbon dated to pre-Inca cultures, later refined by Inca hydrologists. These ropes aren't static, they're deliberately flexible, allowing the islands to rise and fall with seasonal water levels without tearing apart. Modern engineers call this dynamic anchoring, but the Inca likely saw it as common sense, working with the lake's rhythms, not against them. Then there's the architecture. Yoros' houses, lightweight yet wind-resistant, echo the Incas' understanding of material limitations. Walls are made of bundled reeds lashed together at angles that disperse wind pressure, while roofs curve to shed rain. Even the islands themselves are shaped intentionally, some oblong to reduce drag from waves, others circular to create calm lagoons for fishing. This isn't haphazard design, it's hydrodynamics encoded in tradition passed down through generations. The most striking parallel: adaptability. Just as the Inca built terraces that flexed with earthquakes, the Yoros' islands yield to storms, their reeds bending so the structures won't break. During clashes with the Spanish, some Inca communities allegedly fled to floating hideouts, a tactic the Yoros later used to evade colonial tax collectors. Today, that same adaptability faces new challenges. climate change has shrunk totora beds, while tourism threatens to turn living culture into a spectacle. Yet the islands persist, buoyed by ancient knowledge and quiet innovation. Standing on one of these spongy surfaces, feeling it shift underfoot, you realize the Euro's islands aren't just remnants of the past. They're living proof of an unbroken dialogue between people and water, one that began with the Incas' reverence for lakes as sacred mirrors of the cosmos. In a world racing to build ever more rigid structures, these floating worlds whisper an alternative. Sometimes the strongest way to endure is to stay flexible, to ride the waves rather than resist them. And as long as the totora reeds grow, that lesson will keep floating on, timeless as the lake itself. Deep in the Apurimac Valley, the Sacsayhuamán stone sits like a riddle carved in granite. At first glance, it's just a massive boulder until you notice the labyrinth of miniature terraces, canals, and stairways covering its surface. These aren't random scratches, they're a meticulously detailed landscape, a tiny world frozen in stone. Some researchers believe this wasn't art, it was a blueprint, a three-dimensional model for the Incas' most ambitious hydraulic projects, meant to guide engineers in reshaping entire mountainsides. Zoom in on the carvings and the precision is staggering. Channels branch and reconnect like veins, some no wider than a finger, all carved with gradients so exact they mimic natural water flow. Tiny depressions mark reservoirs, while raised ridges simulate terraces. The most striking detail, the stone even includes erosion control features, zigzagging spillways that would have slowed torrential rains, preventing landslides in real-world applications. Modern hydrologists have poured water over replicas and watched it follow the carved paths flawlessly, suggesting the Inca understood fluid dynamics on an intuitive level. But here's the twist, not everyone agrees it was an engineering model. Some archaeologists point to the stone's ceremonial context. Sacsayhuamán was found near a temple complex dedicated to water deities where priests performed rituals for fertility and rain. The carvings might have been a symbolic map, a way to spiritually control water by representing it in stone. Certain grooves align with solstice sunrises, hinting at an astronomical function. Then there's the mystery of the missing scale. No actual Inca site matches the stone's layout exactly. Was it a prototype for a project never built? A teaching tool or something more esoteric? The debate sharpens when you consider the tools. The stone's andesite surface is notoriously hard, yet the carvings show no chisel marks, just smooth, polished channels. Some theorists propose the Inca used abrasive sand or even acid-rich plant juices to etch the rock. Others note the presence of cup-like depressions that might have held offerings, blending practical design with ritual. Standing before the Sacsayhuamán stone, you're left with a haunting possibility. What if it was all of these things? The Inca saw no divide between science and spirituality. A hydraulic model could double as an altar. A map of rivers might also chart cosmic flows. In their world, every canal was a prayer and every terrace a hymn to the earth. The stone doesn't just defy categorization, it challenges our modern divisions, whispering that utility and reverence might have once been the same language. And until we learn to speak it, its deepest secrets will stay locked in plain sight. Cut into the sheer cliffs of Colca Canyon, the colcas of the Inca stand like silent sentinels guarding the secrets of survival. These aren't just storage rooms, they're time capsules of ingenuity, designed to keep potatoes, quinoa, and maize edible for decades without a single modern preservative. Picture shelves carved into volcanic rock, their precise angles and hidden channels creating microclimates so stable they rival today's high-tech refrigeration. How did a civilization without thermometers or humidity sensors engineer food preservation this advanced? The answer lies in the marriage of geology and genius. Start with the location. The Inca didn't dig these granaries at random. They chose cliff faces with meticulous care. North-facing walls in Colca Canyon avoid direct sunlight, maintaining a consistent temperature between 5 and 10 degrees Celsius year-round. The porous volcanic rock acts as a natural insulator, buffering against the Andes' extreme temperature swings. But the real magic happens inside. Each colca features a series of vents, some no wider than a finger, positioned to harness the canyon's wind patterns. As air flows through these channels, it creates a passive circulation system, wicking away moisture before mold can take hold. Modern engineers call this stack ventilation, a principle we've only recently optimized with computer models. The Inca, they perfected it by observation alone. Then there's the architecture of dryness. The floors of these granaries slope slightly toward hidden drainage channels, ensuring any condensation escapes without pooling. Walls are lined with iku grass, a natural desiccant that absorbs residual humidity. But the most startling detail, the shelves themselves. Carved with minute grooves, they elevate food just enough to allow air to flow beneath, preventing rot from contact with cold stone. Archaeologists have found remnants of potatoes in these colcas still intact after 50 years, their nutrients preserved as if frozen in time. What's truly humbling is how these granaries reflect the Incas' worldview. They didn't just store food, they honored it. Offerings of coca leaves and woven textiles often accompanied the harvest, a spiritual insurance policy against famine. The colcas weren't just practical, they were sacred, a physical manifestation of the Incas' contract with nature. In an era where we rely on electricity and chemical preservatives, these silent cliffside vaults whisper a radical idea. Sometimes the most advanced technology doesn't plug in. It simply listens to the wind, the rock, and the rhythms of the earth itself. And as climate change threatens modern food systems, that ancient wisdom feels less like history and more like a lifeline. Rising from the dusty plains near Cusco, the gateway of Rumacolca doesn't just stand, it mesmerizes. At first glance, it appears to be a simple stone archway, but lean closer and the truth reveals itself. These stones don't merely sit together, they fuse, blending so seamlessly that the boundaries between them vanish like mist. No mortar, no gaps, just an eerie, almost organic unity that makes you question whether the Inca were masons or alchemists who somehow liquefied stone. What sets Rumacolca apart isn't just the perfection of its joints, but the mystery of its method. Unlike Sacsayhuamán's jagged zigzag walls or Ollantaytambo's geometric megaliths, Rumacolca's stones curve and flow, their edges softened as if sculpted by water rather than tools. Some surfaces bear a faint glass-like sheen, reminiscent of the vitrified stones found at other sites, but here the effect is subtler, more deliberate. Researchers have debated whether the builders used heat, friction, or some lost binding agent to achieve this fusion. The most compelling clue, tiny, pebble-sized protrusions left on certain stones, possibly handles for maneuvering them into place before the final surface was smoothed away. These nubs suggest a process far more intricate than simple stacking, hinting at a finishing technique that's vanished from history. Compare this to the precision at Coricancha or Machu Picchu, where stones fit tightly but remain distinctly separate. Rumacolca's gateway behaves differently, its stones almost healing together over time. One theory points to mineral deposits. The local limestone contains traces of silica, which, when mixed with rainwater, could have formed a natural cement over centuries. But that doesn't explain why only some joints exhibit this fusion, while others remain crisply defined. Another possibility, the Inca might have employed a form of pressure welding, using the stone's own weight and careful abrasion to create microscopic interlocking crystals. Modern experiments with similar techniques have produced comparable seams, but never at this scale or consistency. The real enigma lies in Rumacolca's purpose. This wasn't a temple or palace, but a checkpoint, a toll gate controlling flow into the sacred valley. Why lavish such artistry on a utilitarian structure? The answer might lie in the Incas' worldview. To them, boundaries weren't just physical, they were sacred thresholds between realms. A gateway this flawless could have been a spiritual as much as a logistical statement, a demonstration of power to travelers and a nod to the gods. Today, Rumicolca stands as a whisper of lost knowledge. Its stones refuse to divulge their secrets, leaving us to wonder if we've uncovered all the Incas' techniques, or if some were so refined, so subtle, they've melted back into the land they came from. Touch those seamless joints and you're not just feeling stone. You're touching the ghost of a craft that defies replication, a silent testament to the Incas' unrivaled dialogue with the earth. Imagine a stone that doesn't just tell time, it converses with the sun. The Intihuatana, or hitching post of the sun, is no ordinary rock. Carved with exacting precision, these sacred stones served as celestial anchors, their angles and shadows aligning with solstices, equinoxes, and agricultural cycles in ways modern instruments struggle to replicate. But their genius wasn't just in marking time. It was in weaving astronomy, spirituality, and survival into a single, unshakable pillar of Inca life. Take the most famous Intihuatana at Machu Picchu. Its four corners align with the cardinal directions, while its central pillar casts shadows so precise that priests could determine the December solstice within minutes, crucial for planting crops in the Andes' unforgiving climate. During the equinoxes, the pillar stands shadowless at noon, a fleeting moment when the sun, stone, and earth exist in perfect balance. This wasn't just a calendar, it was a cosmic handshake, a reassurance that the gods still held the universe in order. Modern researchers using laser scans found the stone's angles correspond to Machu Picchu's latitude, meaning its shadows track the sun's path with near-digital accuracy. How did the Inca achieve this without trigonometry or written records? Generations of observation, encoded into stone instead of parchment. The Intihuatana's design reveals deeper layers of Inca cosmology. Unlike flat sundials, its three-dimensional shape allowed it to track both the sun's daily arc and its yearly migration. The stone's curves mirror the horizon's profile, creating a tangible link between the earth and sky. Some scholars believe the grooves along its edges held water or liquid mercury, reflecting sunlight to amplify readings during rituals. Others point to its resonant properties. Striking the stone produces a bell-like tone, suggesting it might have doubled as a sonic tool for ceremonies. But these stones weren't just for elites. Across the empire, smaller Intihuatana guided farmers. In the Sacred Valley, a cruder but equally effective version still stands in a village square, its shadows signaling when to plant maize or harvest potatoes. The Inca didn't separate science from survival. A solstice wasn't just an astronomical event, it was the difference between feast and famine. The stone's precision wasn't vanity, it was vital. What's haunting is how few remain. The Spanish destroyed most Intihuatana, fearing their spiritual power. Yet the survivors still function flawlessly, their shadows sliding across ancient markers like clockwork, untouched by conquest. Standing beside one today, you realize these weren't just tools. They were prayers in rock, a civilization's plea to the cosmos, remember us. And as the sun continues to answer, casting its faithful shadows across these stones century after century, it's clear. The Incas' dialogue with the heavens never truly ended. Perched high above the Sacred Valley, the fortress of Pisac doesn't just command the landscape, it orchestrates it. From a distance, its terraces resemble the ripples of a stone waterfall, cascading down the mountainside in perfect synchrony. But this isn't just agriculture, it's warfare disguised as farming. Each of Pisac's 300 terraces served a dual purpose, feeding the empire and funneling invaders into deadly choke points. The Incas didn't just build farms, they engineered a labyrinth where every step could be a trap and every harvest a weapon. Start with the terraces themselves. Unlike the gentle, rolling steps of Chinchero or Moray, Pisacs are vertical, some towering over 15 feet high with sheer stone faces. From below, they look like impassable walls, from above, they're fertile fields. But the real ingenuity lies in their layout. The terraces zigzag up the slope in staggered patterns, creating narrow switchbacks that forced attackers to move single file, perfect for archers perched on the upper levels. Even if invaders breached the outer defenses, they'd find themselves funneled into kill zones between the terraces, where defenders could rain down stones or boiling water from concealed positions. Modern military strategists call this defense in depth, a layered approach to attrition. The Incas mastered it centuries before the term existed, yet Pisac's brilliance wasn't just in killing, it was in sustaining. While the terraces slowed enemies, they also fed the garrison. The microclimates created by the step-like design allowed crops to thrive at altitudes where flat farming would fail. Cold-resistant potatoes grew on lower, warmer tiers, while hardy quinoa flourished higher up. Secret cisterns carved into the terraces collected rainwater, ensuring sieges could outlast invaders. Spanish chronicles tell of Pisac holding out for months during rebellions, its defenders well-fed while besiegers starved. The fortress wasn't just a stronghold, it was a self-repairing machine, its very soil a form of resistance. Then there's the citadel's crown jewel, the Temple of the Sun. Perched at the highest point, it wasn't just a spiritual center, it was a command post. From here, sentries could relay signals across the valley using polished metal mirrors, coordinating with other fortresses in a network of light. The temple's alignment with solstice sunrises wasn't just ceremonial, it functioned as a celestial calendar, ensuring planting and defense seasons stayed synchronized. Attacked during harvest, the garrison was already mobilized. Strike in planting season, the terraces were sown with thorny shrubs as natural barricades. What's most striking is how Pisac's legacy endures. Modern Andean farmers still cultivate its terraces, using the same drought-resistant techniques. Archaeologists have found hidden tunnels beneath the fortress, some leading to emergency escape routes, others to storage chambers stockpiled with enough food to outlast a decade of conflict. The Incas didn't just build for their time, they built for eternity. Standing on Pisac's battlements today, you don't just see a fortress, you see a manifesto carved in stone and soil. That true power isn't just about dominating the land, but harmonizing with it. And in that harmony, they found an unbeatable defense. Beneath the cobblestone streets and colonial facades of modern Cusco, an ancient hydraulic whisper still flows hidden water temples where liquid and prayer merged into a single sacred science. These weren't just shrines, they were living laboratories where the Incas transformed mountain springs into both spiritual spectacles and feats of ecological engineering. At sites like Tambamache, every drop of water was choreographed, channeled through stone arteries to create fountains that never faltered, cascades that sang, and pools that mirrored the stars. The genius of these temples lay in their duality. The same channels that carried ceremonial waters also fed terraces and stored emergency supplies, blending practical hydraulics with divine theater. Spanish chroniclers described Tambamache's fountains as tears of the moon, their constant flow seen as proof of the god's favor, but the real miracle was underground. Archaeologists have uncovered layered filtration systems, volcanic sand, and charcoal filters purifying water centuries before modern sanitation. The Incas didn't just worship water, they dialogued with it, coaxing purity from turbulent streams without a single metal pipe. What's revelatory is how these sites functioned as celestial calendars. At the lesser-known Cuenco Chico, water channels align with June solstice dawn. Sunlight would strike the first fountain, then the next, traveling through the complex like a liquid hourglass. Priests could time rituals to the minute based on which basin overflowed. Nearby, the Temple of the Moon's crescent-shaped basins filled only during certain lunar phases, their overflow triggering hidden aquifers that irrigated sacred gardens. This wasn't just astronomy, it was hydrological poetry where celestial events became tangible through water's movement. The most haunting legacy, these temples still work. Despite 5 centuries of earthquakes and neglect, Tambamache's fountains flow as reliably as they did under Inca rule. Modern engineers have traced their sources to springs over 6 miles away, delivered through gravity-fed stone conduits with gradients precise to within fractions of a degree. No pumps, no seals, just an unbroken conversation between rock and water. Standing in these shrines today, you don't just see ruins, you witness a philosophy that engineering and reverence aren't opposing forces but two currents from the same spring. The Incas didn't build temples to control nature, they built them to listen, and in that listening they unlocked secrets we're still struggling to hear. High on a windswept plateau overlooking the sacred valley, the ruins of Sacsayhuamán whisper tales of sudden abandonment. Unlike the polished perfection of Machu Picchu, this site wears its incompleteness like a badge half-carved stones frozen mid-transformation, walls that taper into nothingness and doorways leading nowhere. The name itself hints at paradox. Little Cusco suggests grand ambitions, yet the reality is a puzzle of interrupted intentions. Was this a royal retreat halted by civil war? A ceremonial center whose purpose outlived its construction, or something far more enigmatic, a site deliberately left unfinished as a symbolic gesture? Walk among the ruins and the evidence sprawls in plain sight. Some stones show meticulous craftsmanship, their edges beveled with the Inca's signature precision, while others remain rough-hewn, still clinging to their original quarry form. A few blocks bear shallow grooves, guide marks for masons who never returned. The most telling clues lie in the terraces, where most Inca sites feature seamless retaining walls. Sacsayhuamán's upper levels dissolve into scattered piles of rock, as if workers downed tools mid-task. Spanish chronicles mention a great rebellion around 1438, when a rival faction sacked the sacred valley. Could this have been the moment construction ceased? Carbon dating suggests the site was active during this turbulent period, lending weight to the theory that violence, not design, pressed pause on its evolution. Yet there's another layer to this mystery. Certain structures defy easy explanation. A lone, perfectly carved ceremonial bath sits isolated amid rubble, its hydraulic channels leading to nowhere. A corridor of precisely spaced niches typically used for ritual objects stretches along an unfinished wall, their symmetry clashing with the surrounding chaos. These aren't accidents of abandonment, they feel intentional, as if the site was always meant to straddle the line between creation and dissolution. Some Andean scholars propose a radical idea, that Sacsayhuamán was deliberately left incomplete as a symbolic representation of Tawantinsuyu's unfinished destiny. The Inca saw their empire as eternally expanding, a work in progress mirroring the cosmos itself. An incomplete site might have served as a spiritual reminder, a stone and mortar metaphor for perpetual becoming. Then there's the geological wild card. Recent surveys reveal the plateau is slowly sliding downhill, a phenomenon the Inca likely noticed. Cracks in some walls align with subterranean faults, suggesting the land itself rebelled against their plans. Unlike Machu Picchu, where bedrock was stable, Sacsayhuamán's shifting foundation may have forced builders to concede to forces even their engineering couldn't tame. Standing here today, with hawks circling overhead and the Urubamba River glinting far below, Sacsayhuamán feels less like a ruin and more like a question carved in stone. It challenges our obsession with completion, whispering that some stories aren't meant to have endings. Whether felled by war, geology, or philosophy, this place remains suspended between worlds, a testament to the Incas' humility in the face of the unconquerable. And perhaps that's the greatest marvel of all, their willingness to let the land have the last word. The night sky wasn't just a spectacle to the Inca, it was a scaffold, a celestial grid upon which they mapped their empire's most sacred cities. Cusco, their capital, wasn't shaped like a puma by chance. Its streets and temples traced the silhouette of the Milky Way, mirroring the cosmic river the Inca called Mayu. Machu Picchu's layout echoes the Southern Cross, its central plaza aligned with the constellation's brightest stars during the winter solstice. Even smaller sites like Ollantaytambo and Pisac align with lesser constellations, creating a terrestrial mirror of the heavens so precise it feels deliberate. But was this astronomy or something deeper? A growing body of research suggests the Inca didn't just observe the cosmos, they conversed with it, stitching their urban plans into the fabric of the night itself. Start with Cusco. From above, the city's famed puma shape isn't merely symbolic, it's stellar. The Coricancha, the empire's holiest temple, sits where the puma's heart would be, aligning with the celestial jaguar of Inca mythology. Radiating outward, Sekline's sacred pathways linking shrines extend like cosmic spokes, each corresponding to specific stars or planetary movements. Spanish chroniclers recorded that these lines weren't arbitrary. They marked the rising and setting points of celestial bodies over the annual cycle. Modern LiDAR scans confirm their alignment with Orion's belt and the Pleiades, clusters central to Inca agriculture and ritual. The city wasn't just a capital, it was a clock, its very streets ticking off celestial time. Machu Picchu takes this further. Its famous Intihuatana stone isn't the only celestial anchor. The entire citadel functions as an observatory, with windows and doorways framing solstice sunrises and the zenith passage of the sun, a phenomenon unique to equatorial latitudes. The Temple of the Three Windows aligns with the rising of the June solstice sun, while the nearby Torreon Tower's slit aperture perfectly captures the winter solstice sunrise. But the most compelling evidence lies underground. Recent excavations reveal subterranean channels that, when filled with water, would have reflected specific constellations during rituals. Imagine priests standing in the temple at night, the stars above mirrored in the pools below, a double sky bridging heaven and earth. Theories about why the Inca engineered this cosmic mimicry range from the pragmatic to the profound. Some scholars argue it was utilitarian, a way to synchronize planting and harvests with celestial events. Others see it as ideological, a physical manifestation of the Incas' belief that their rulers descended from the sun and stars. But the most tantalizing idea comes from Andean oral traditions, which describe the cosmos as a living map. To the Inca, aligning cities with constellations wasn't just symbolism, it was participation, a way to tether their world to the eternal rhythms of the universe. They didn't build monuments to the sky, they wove their civilization into its very fabric. Standing at dawn in Cusco's Plaza de Armas, watching the first light touch the Coricancha's ruins, you can almost feel the connection. The stones underfoot, the mountains encircling the city, the stars fading overhead, all part of a single, unbroken design. The Inca didn't just gaze at the heavens. They built a world where earth and sky were mirrors, each reflecting the other in an endless, sacred dialogue. And in that reflection, they left a challenge to see our own cities not just as places, but as part of something infinitely larger. From the earthquake-defying walls of Sacsayhuamán to the celestial mirrors of the Uros Islands, these 30 marvels aren't just relics, they're revolutions carved in stone. Think of Ollantaytambo's megaliths moving mountains without wheels or pulleys. Picture Moray's agricultural amphitheater, a living laboratory where temperature and altitude danced at the Inca's command. And who could forget those vitrified stones, their glassy surfaces whispering of lost techniques hotter than modern furnaces? Each site we've explored isn't just proof of genius, it's a gauntlet thrown at the feet of modern science, daring us to explain how a civilization without blueprints, iron, or even the written word achieved feats we're still struggling to replicate. Consider the sheer audacity of it all. The Inca didn't just adapt to their environment, they conversed with it. Their terraces tamed avalanches into fertile soil. Their temples harnessed sunlight as a precision tool. Even their bridges woven from grass, rebuilt annually, outlast steel and concrete through sheer adaptability. These weren't just engineering triumphs, they were philosophical statements. Where we see barriers, the Inca saw invitations. Where we impose rigid solutions, they flowed like water, bending without breaking. And that's the real mystery, isn't it? Not just how they built, but why they chose such impossible perfection. Was it devotion, necessity, or something deeper? A language of stone and star we've yet to fully decipher. The answers might lie buried in the cracks of Rumicolca's fused gateway or the solstice shadows of Pisac. Or perhaps they're not meant to be answered at all, but felt standing in the shadow of Machu Picchu at dawn, or tracing the hidden channels beneath Tepan's fountains. So now it's your turn. Which marvel left you breathless? Was it the hydraulic harmonies of Tambamache or the cosmic clockwork of Lactopota? Drop your favorite in the comments. We're obsessed with these mysteries, and your theories might just spark the next deep dive. And if you're craving more ancient enigmas, hit subscribe. From Egypt's hidden chambers to Cambodia's jungle temples, we're just getting started. The past is packed with puzzles, and together, we're going to unravel them one stone at a time.